Kauai, the oldest island in Hawaii, and one of the wettest places on earth, an unconquered land of royalty and riches, with dramatic cliffs and canyons carved over centuries by the rivers and rain. On its west side is a community keeping tradition alive, a place where ancient ways are still worth their salt, and the people in gold. This is Hanapēpē. Hanapepe sits on the west side of Kauai in the moku of Kona. Famous for its swinging bridge and classic charm, Hanapēpē is known as the biggest little town on Kauai. Once home to the main port of the island, Hanapēpē was also Kauai's business center for decades. Hanapēpē town was founded in the late 1800s, but Hawaiians have been living in Hanapēpē Valley for thousands of years. Some say the ancient name of Kauai is Kamawailualani, which means the center of the circle of the universe.
In that island we have there, I believe it goes back thousands of years. Generation after generation after generation.
Kauai is the oldest of the main Hawaiian islands, but was last to become part of the Kingdom of Hawaii. Kauai's last independent king, Kaumoali'i, was born around the time Captain Cook came to Hawaii in 1778. He would become king of Kauai and Ni'ihau as a teenager, succeeding his father, who died fighting Kalani Kupule on Oahu. Kamehameha, at that time, was starting to build his empire. He would soon conquer the other islands until all that remained were Kauai and Ni'ihau. He tried to take Kauai as early as 1796 and failed twice.
But 1810, an American trader came to Kaumoali'i and told him that Kamehameha had a huge armed forces, naval base, foreign ships manned with guns and cannons. Kaumoali'i had to do something that would save his island. So rather than have bloodshed, he ceded the island. His kahuna said to him, Kamehameha is going to try to trick you. He's going to offer you two stones, a white stone and a black stone. Okay? And he's going to say, Kaumoali'i, which stone do you choose? The stone that you choose is going to determine what happens to Kauai.
When Kaumoali'i met with Kamehameha on Oahu,
Kamehameha had two stones in his hands. Kaumoali'i, which stone do you choose? Kaumoali'i said, I choose the white stone. Kamehameha was startled. Did he inherit the mana of his mother, Kamakahele? Did he inherit that? I have to be careful. He's thinking, I must be careful. So he offers the island to Kaumoali'i. Kaumoali'i, you can remain the king as long as you live. The agreement was made. Kaumoali'i agreed. He saved the island.
Kauai and Ni'ihau became part of the Kingdom of Hawaii in 1810, and Kaumoali'i remained the king. It stayed that way until the death of Kamehameha in 1819, when Liholiho and Ka'ahumanu would take over as rulers of Hawaii.
But in 1821, Liholiho comes to Kauai to see what he inherited from his father. So he looks over the land. For an entire month, he is entertained by Kaumoali'i. And finally, when they get to Waimea, there's a ship in its bay. Liholiho invites Kaumoli'i on board, but only him. And while he's on board, Liholiho gives orders to set sail. The king is kidnapped. In 10 days, he's married to Ka'ahumanu. And a few years later, Kaumoli'i is dead.
Kaumoli'i was buried in Lahaina at Waiola Church, where Keo Puolani and Ka'ahumanu were also laid to rest. By the 1820s, Hawaii was changing quickly. Trading ships, missionaries, and foreign businessmen had already arrived, and sugarcane, a staple crop of ancient Hawaiians, soon became the main industry of the islands.
The Chinese are then brought to work on the sugar plantation because the Hawaiians are not working. I used to go home from school sometimes, and when somebody say, "You're Hawaiian?" I say, "Yes." "Oh, Hawaiians are lazy. All Hawaiians are lazy. I wouldn't want to be a Hawaiian." And I would go home and say, "Papa, why do they say that Hawaiians are lazy? We're not lazy. We have chores. You know, we all have things to do." Papa says, "That's a plantation mentality because the Hawaiians wouldn't work, so they call the Hawaiians lazy. You couldn't keep your family with 10 cents an hour, sun up to sundown. You can't go fishing, you can't go hunting, you can't garden, you're too tired. So what happens? Your family cannot, sure, you live off the land, but so they quit their job, go back, live off the land."
By the late 1800s, some of the plantation workers were ready for something new. A small group of families each opened a business, and Hanapēpē town was born.
Hanapepe was a peculiar town, and no one really told me what the history of my town was about. All I knew I caught it on the end of a booming era.
Before Na Vilivili Harbor opened in Lihue, everything for the island came through Port Allen and Hanapēpē.
So that explained why our town was such a booming town full of everything. You didn't even have to leave Hanapepe. Everything you needed was in this town. You needed fabric for sewing, we had a fabric store. You needed drugs, we had a drugstore. You needed books, we had a bookstore. We had clothing, we had bars, we had restaurants. This was my growing up turf. And I would go with my bike and go into these little shop, mom and pop stores, and get to know the owners of these stores. Some of them didn't even speak very good English. They spoke Japanese or it was Chinese, but we got along, and they all were striving to make a living here in Hanapepe.
Those days, they were all family. They were run by families. There were no such thing as 8 hours a day. Or you got to work 40 hours a week. No. The family stayed up till about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. It depends on the crowd that comes to Hanapepe. And I think that was the best time that we ever had. Those old timers in Hanapepe, I will never forget it. I'll never forget Hanapepe. I love the little town.
We used to put on programs at the Hanapepe Park, a full-on program. The different age levels would perform, we'd sing, we'd act, whatever. And those were fun times. And then the business association, they put up lights, street lights, Christmas lights, and Santa Claus would come down the street, throw candies to all the kids. We had lucky number, right? So those were real fun days.
Hanapēpē has changed so much since those days that it's almost come full circle.
And it's funny though, here we are in the year 2017, and it's almost a recycle. If you go into the Hanapepe town with the art walk, you still see all of these different cultures coming together with their dreams, whatever they may be in business. It's like, wow, it's a new generation, new energy, new everything, and they're trying to bring that beauty of Hanapepe back, I think.
So we've had mostly tourist-oriented businesses. We've had some resident-oriented businesses, but now there's a whole diversity of shopping, which is really good. So we're seeing like clothing stores and bakeries and more restaurants, and it's just really great. So, and even like with our bookstore, it's just, you have businesses that are becoming anchor establishments that are drawing everyone into town.
With all the people that have come through Hanapēpē, one thing that's maintained is the culture of the Hawaiian people.
If you go into the valley back in the days, the Hanapepe Valley, all of the old Hawaiian families, you could find them there. I remember going to my auntie Lily Komake's hale, beautiful hale. She lived at the end of this street, and it opened up into this like manicured lawn and this two-story white house, which I considered a mansion back then. And you had those little lawn wooden chairs, and you go there and just have some iced tea with her under her plumeria tree and with my grandmother, and they would share stories or make, they used to call it Job tears lays, and all of these special little things that happen in the valley. And some of the kupuna are still there, you know. Yes, they're getting older, but it seemed like the Hanapepe Valley was where you could find all the old Hawaiian families still practicing some of their own traditions. Even the salt, the Hawaiian salt, you could see the salt drying on their lawns, all in these big drying boxes, and it was something natural to see.
So I grew up in Hanapepe Valley, and this is actually where my mom's side of the family comes from. And my mom's name is Roslyn Nobriga, formerly Chu, and so that's the Chinese Hawaiian side of my family. So mom is born and raised also in Hanapepe Valley, as well as my grandfather. He loved to grow food. He has an ag field next to where we live, and we're really fortunate in Hanapepe Valley to have this source of Wahi to continue to feed our family in different ways.
That source of Wahi is the Hanapēpē River. It runs from the valley to the shore and comes from a waterfall deep in the mountains.
The false name has been called many, but the real proper name is Manawai or Puna. In other words, the word says the energies from these falls comes from the Punawai. And that Punawai comes from Mount Waialea. That's what it is.
And it's the subject of Ko'ula, a popular song about the area.
And it's a beautiful song that is further up in the valley and is known as Ko'ula Valley as well.
Salt is worshipped around the world, and the practice of harvesting it is tradition in Hanapēpē.
Hanapepe is well known for making pa'akai, or making salt.
People get all confused what the name of Hanapēpē. The full name is Hana'ipa'akai I Hanapepe. In other words, when other people come from other areas, all they do is here smashing salt.
Salt making at Hanapēpē, Kauai has changed little from the ancient ways. Linking yesterday with today is Christina Kali. Born in Koloa in 1905, Mrs. Kali vividly recalls going to the salt beds as a young girl with her grandmother.
I started making salt when I was young in the year 1918, and the name of the salt pond area is Kunakai'awe. Below that is Ku'unopio, and above that is Pu'olo. The people that used to go there and make salt were the owners of Kuleana lands only, and only from Hanapēpē.
There are 22 families that still have rights to make pa'akai in Hanapēpē.
When I first went back to making salt, because our family kind of got caught up in the American dream, let's just say. So too busy to make salt, and because it's a lot of hard work, they were trying to just try to make a living. And so after I grew up, and there was just a calling. It just was calling my spirit to go back. And so I finally took it back up. And I think the greatest lessons I learned was that summer, because I allowed that Wahi to speak to me. I wasn't seeking stories. I heard the stories from my family, but I needed to hear the stories from my kupuna. And so I learned by kilo, just by observing and listening to what it was telling me, that the formula to attain anything in life is no different than making salt. It needs your time, it needs your effort, it needs you to understand how it comes about. And it's no longer just about making salt. That whole practice just connects you to your kupuna, and it gives you a feeling of so much respect for them. I mean, I'm just in awe to think that my kupuna, my grandmother, my great-grandmother were on their hands and knees and doing this, and I have the opportunity to use the same pohaku to rub the same lepo, the dirt. That is treasure.
We're so blessed to be here and be able to still be the practitioners holding the knowledge and the practice of cultivating salt, because nowhere else in the world do we make salt this way. In particular, I mean, salt is made all around the world, but to be able to harvest it, to sit on a salt plate and cultivate it in the fashion that we do here, it's precious. For us, we haven't made salt for 4 or 5 years just because of the weather. You know, climate change. I mean, that's real.
We're seeing the direct impacts of climate change on our cultural practices like pa'akai, you know, and how for us as a ohana, we haven't been able to make pa'akai for 4 years. And, you know, whether it be because of sea level rise or for constant flooding in the area, it's having a direct impact on our livelihoods, and, you know, just being able to share it with others.
Giving salt to friends and family, we do it as we trade, or it's just for a makana, or people give for ceremonial reasons. But the true gift of working and making salt is the ike that comes from that place, that gives you ike to live life into the future, to teach your children about aloha and malama and ohana. To me, that is the gift about the salt beds.
Another way the children of Hanapēpē are learning those values is through Tutu and Me, a free traveling preschool.
I have little nephews, and so I learned about Tutu and Me here in Hanapēpē. And so I was able to just enjoy that time to bring our keiki and to have them interact with other young ones, and for them to be exposed to different mele and to for them to just have time to launa and to spend time together and to learn together, and for me as an auntie to bond with him even more through these different activities.
And with all the changes in Hanapēpē over the years, one thing that hasn't changed is the love of its people.
But living in Hanapēpē was the most wonderful life I ever had.
I love my Aina Hanau. I love this place that is a part of our Iwi Kupuna, where we bury the bones of our ancestors, and it connects us. It's a place where our cultural practices are well alive. Whether it be from all the way up Mauka, where we have these beautiful rainbows that we can experience, and down through the valley where the Hanapepe River flows all the way down to Pu'olo Point, where we make pa'akai. So we're a thriving community, and yes, we have changes going on, but I think we are here to let others know that Hanapepe is still alive and well.
The moment you get into the little road there, the main street, there's something in there that just draw you. Every little shop was filled, every little 1 or 2% have their own little business. And I think that was the best time that we ever had. Those old timers in Hanapepe, I will never forget it. I'll never forget Hanapepe. I love this little town.